Have you ever looked at a younger woman smiling at you, and instead of feeling excited, you felt afraid? Not because of her, because of the voice inside your own head, the one whispering, "She's just being polite. You're too old. Don't embarrass yourself." If that voice has ever stopped you before you even had a chance to know what was possible, stay with me. And if these conversations help you understand yourself a little more deeply, quietly subscribe. Not because you owe me anything, but because sometimes the hardest journey becomes easier when you don't have to walk it alone. I want to tell you something that many men over 60 never hear. The biggest challenge in dating a younger woman isn't your age. It's the story you've started believing about your age. There's a difference. I've spent years listening to men describe the same moment in different ways. They sit across from me, successful careers behind them, children grown, lives filled with victories and disappointments. They don't come to talk about business. They don't come to talk about retirement. They come because someone unexpectedly caught their attention. A woman 20 years younger, sometimes 30. And what surprises them isn't the attraction, it's the guilt, the hesitation, almost as if they're asking permission to feel alive again. One man once looked at me with genuine sadness and said, "I don't even know if I'm allowed to want this." Think about those words. Not, "Can it work?" Not, "Will she like me?" But, "Am I allowed?" That question doesn't come from age, it comes from shame. Somewhere along the way, many men quietly absorb the idea that growing older means becoming invisible in romantic life. Society celebrates youth so loudly that eventually some men stop listening to their own experiences and start believing the crowd. So when a younger woman laughs at their joke, they assume she's just being nice. When she keeps the conversation going, they convince themselves she's bored. When she texts first, they spend hours searching for another explanation. It's strange, isn't it? A man who negotiated million-dollar deals suddenly can't believe someone genuinely enjoys talking to him. Not because he's unintelligent, because emotional doubt doesn't care how accomplished you are. It finds the smallest crack, then slowly turns it into a canyon. Now let me tell you something equally important. Some younger women are genuinely attracted to older men. Not all, not most, some. And that distinction matters, because the internet loves extremes. Either it tells you every younger woman secretly wants an older man, or it tells you none of them ever could. Reality doesn't work that way. People don't fall in love with birth certificates. They connect with presence, with emotional safety, with curiosity, with character, with humor, with the feeling that someone truly sees them. Age can influence attraction. It doesn't completely define it. Yet many men sabotage themselves long before reality has a chance to answer the question. They become so focused on proving they're young enough that they accidentally hide the very qualities that make maturity attractive. They apologize for growing older. They joke about being ancient before anyone else does. They try to imitate 25-year-old men, and ironically, that's often when confidence disappears. Here's something I've noticed. A younger woman usually notices emotional energy before she notices your age. Not because age is invisible, because people feel your relationship with yourself before they analyze your appearance. If every sentence carries insecurity, she feels it. If every compliment is really a request for reassurance, she feels that too. Confidence isn't pretending to be younger, it's refusing to be ashamed of becoming older. There's a quiet dignity in a man who doesn't fight his years, who doesn't hide them, who doesn't wear them like a burden either. He simply accepts them. That acceptance changes the atmosphere around him, and atmosphere is often more memorable than appearance. But this is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable, because many men watching right now aren't actually afraid of rejection, they're afraid of confirmation. They're terrified that one rejection will prove every fear they've secretly carried about aging. So they never ask, never flirt, never explore, never discover whether the story in their head was true. And over time, imagination becomes more painful than reality. That's the trap. Not growing older, living as though your life already ended while you're still very much alive. The truth about dating a younger woman after 60 doesn't begin with her at all. It begins with the quiet conversation you're having with yourself every morning when you look in the mirror. Because until that conversation changes, Every relationship you hope for will have to fight against the man you've quietly become convinced you are. There's something I wish more men understood before they ever ask a younger woman out. She is not walking into your past. She's walking into your present. And the way you carry that present matters more than you probably realize. I've watched this happen countless times. A man meets someone younger. The conversation feels easy. They laugh. Hours disappear without either of them noticing. For a brief moment, he forgets the number attached to his age. Then he goes home. And that's when the real battle begins. Not with her, with his imagination. He starts rehearsing conversations that haven't happened yet. Her friends will laugh at me. Her family will never accept me. People will think I'm trying to relive my youth. Notice something? Every fear comes from an audience that isn't even in the room. Human beings have an incredible ability to create pain out of possibilities. We imagine judgment before anyone has judged us. We reject ourselves before anyone else has the chance. It's exhausting. And it's surprisingly common. One gentleman once shared something that stayed with me for years. He said, "I wasn't worried about whether she liked me. I was worried about what everyone else would think if she did." That sentence broke my heart. Because hidden inside it was a man who had slowly handed other people the steering wheel of his own happiness. Maybe you've done that too. Not intentionally. Life has a way of teaching us to measure ourselves through other people's reactions. By 60, you've probably heard thousands of opinions about how a man should behave, who he should date, how he should dress, when he should settle down, and what is considered appropriate. After enough years, those voices become so familiar that they begin to sound like your own. But here's the quiet truth. Most people are far too busy managing their own lives to spend much time thinking about yours. The judgment you fear often exists more vividly inside your mind than it does in reality. That doesn't mean challenges aren't real. An age gap relationship can bring practical questions. Different life stages, different social circles, different expectations about the future. Those conversations matter. Ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. But there's a world of difference between discussing real challenges together and destroying a relationship before it even starts because of imaginary ones. Sometimes I think men over 60 carry an invisible suitcase. Inside it are old disappointments, a divorce that still echoes in quiet moments, a relationship where they felt taken for granted, years spent sacrificing their own needs for work, family, or responsibility. When someone younger shows genuine interest, that suitcase suddenly feels much heavier. Because hope has weight. Hope asks you to risk disappointment again. And after enough heartbreak, protecting yourself can start to feel wiser than opening your heart. The problem is, protection and isolation often wear the same disguise. You tell yourself you're being realistic. You convince yourself you're avoiding embarrassment. You call it maturity. But underneath those respectable words may be something much simpler: fear. Not childish fear, human fear. The fear of wanting something deeply enough that losing it would hurt. You know what fascinates me? The men who appear the strongest on the outside are often the ones most terrified of emotional vulnerability. They've spent decades solving problems, providing, leading, making difficult decisions. Yet when affection enters the picture, suddenly they're standing on unfamiliar ground. Because love doesn't reward control, it asks for honesty. A younger woman who is emotionally healthy isn't looking for a flawless man. She isn't expecting you to erase your wrinkles, rewrite your history, or pretend you've never been hurt. She's paying attention to something much quieter. Can you be emotionally present? Can you listen without always trying to fix? Can you laugh at yourself without tearing yourself down? Can you make space for another person's thoughts without feeling threatened? These qualities don't come from age. They come from self-awareness. And here's the irony. Many men spend thousands trying to look younger while neglecting the emotional qualities that become more attractive with maturity. Kindness, patience, stability, a calm confidence that doesn't need constant validation. Those things cannot be bought. They have to be lived. Now, I want to say something that may surprise you. Sometimes a younger woman isn't attracted to an older man's certainty. She's attracted to his peace. There's a difference. Certainty says, I already know everything. Peace says, I've lived enough to know I don't. One pushes people away, the other invites them closer. And perhaps that's what maturity at its best really looks like. Not becoming harder, not becoming cynical, but becoming softer without becoming weak. Because when a woman, regardless of her age, feels emotionally safe around a man, something changes. The conversation slows down, the masks begin to slip. The need to impress quietly fades. And for the first time, two people stop performing and start meeting each other as they really are. That is where genuine connection begins. Not in the age difference, not in appearances, but in the rare courage to let another person see the truth of who you are, without apologizing for the years that brought you there. One of the hardest truths I've ever had to tell a man was this. You keep asking whether she's mature enough for you, but you've never asked whether you're emotionally available for her. The room went quiet. Not because he was offended, because somewhere inside him, he knew exactly what I meant. You see, when people talk about age gap relationships, they usually focus on the numbers, 25 and 60, 35 and 65. They debate whether it's appropriate, whether it can last, whether other people will approve. But numbers rarely tell the real story. Emotional habits do. I've met younger women who carried the emotional wisdom of someone twice their age. I've also met older men who were still running from conversations they should have had 20 years earlier. Age and emotional maturity are not the same thing. They never have been. Here's what often happens. A man spends decades building a life. He learns how to solve problems, provide for others, survive disappointment. He becomes dependable, responsible. But somewhere along the way, he quietly stops talking about himself. Not the facts, the feelings. When someone asks how he's doing, he smiles. I'm fine. When life hurts, he works a little harder. When loneliness appears, he distracts himself. When grief arrives, he tells himself to stay busy. Years pass, and without realizing it, he becomes fluent in silence. Then one day, a younger woman enters his life. She's curious. She asks questions no one has asked him in years. What makes you happy? What scares you? What do you regret? At first, those questions feel refreshing, then uncomfortable. Because it's easier to talk about your career than your loneliness. It's easier to talk about your grandchildren than your fears. It's easier to tell stories than to reveal yourself. Many men believe vulnerability is something women expect in movies, but not in real life. That isn't what I've observed. Healthy vulnerability isn't dramatic. It isn't crying on command. It isn't sharing every painful memory on the second date. It's much quieter than that. It's saying, I don't have all the answers. It's admitting, that experience changed me. It's being honest enough to say, I'm excited, and I'm also nervous. There is remarkable strength in that kind of honesty, because confidence isn't the absence of uncertainty, it's the willingness to remain genuine even when certainty doesn't exist. I've seen relationships where the age difference was 25 years, yet conversations flowed naturally because neither person felt they had to perform. I've also seen couples only 3 years apart who could barely speak honestly to one another. The difference wasn't age, it was emotional presence. Now let me share something that younger women often notice long before men do. Some older men try so hard to impress that they never actually connect. They lead with achievements, the house, the business, the investments, the vacations they've taken. None of those things are wrong. They are part of your life, but they are not your heart. Imagine sitting across from someone who keeps showing you photographs of a beautiful home, yet never invites you inside. Eventually, you stop admiring the walls. You begin wondering who actually lives there. People don't fall in love with resumes. They become attached to moments. The way you remembered something she mentioned weeks ago. The way you stayed calm when plans changed. The way you laughed at yourself after making a mistake instead of becoming defensive. Those moments seem small. Psychologically, they're enormous. They create emotional safety, and emotional safety is surprisingly attractive. There's another pattern I've noticed. Some men become so grateful for a younger woman's attention that they slowly abandon themselves. They stop expressing preferences. They agree with everything. They ignore behaviors that genuinely bother them because they're afraid she'll leave. At first, it looks like kindness, but over time, it becomes self-erasure. Healthy love doesn't require you to disappear. If you're constantly shrinking yourself to keep someone interested, eventually there won't be enough of you left to build a real relationship. A younger woman who respects you isn't looking for a man who says yes to everything. She's looking for someone whose kindness comes from confidence, not fear. There's a quiet difference between generosity and desperation. People can feel it even if they can't explain it. And perhaps this is the uncomfortable truth no one talks about. Dating after 60 isn't mainly about finding someone younger. It's about deciding whether you're willing to let someone know the person you've become. Not the polished version, not the successful version, not the version trying to compete with younger men. The real one. The man shaped by loss, resilience, mistakes, joy, heartbreak, forgiveness, and time. Because the years have already changed your face, that's inevitable. The deeper question is whether they've also opened your heart, or quietly taught you to keep it locked. That answer will influence every relationship far more than the number on your driver's license ever could. There's a question almost no man asks himself, not because he doesn't want the answer, but because the answer might change everything. The question is this: am I looking for love, or am I looking for proof that I still matter? At first, those two things can feel almost identical. A younger woman smiles at you. She remembers your name. She looks into your eyes a little longer than expected. Your heart wakes up. You feel lighter, younger, more alive. There's nothing wrong with that. Attention has a way of reminding us that we're still seen. The danger begins when her attention becomes responsible for your self-worth. Because then every delayed reply feels personal. Every busy weekend feels like rejection. Every disagreement feels like the beginning of the end. I've watched intelligent, emotionally capable men slowly become anxious because they place their entire identity inside someone else's opinion of them. That's an impossible weight for any relationship to carry. A healthy relationship adds to your life. It cannot become your entire foundation. Here's something I often notice. Many men over 60 spent years being needed. Their children needed them, their partners needed them, their careers depended on them, their communities respected them. Then life changed. The children became independent. Retirement arrived. The phone rang a little less often. The house became quieter. No one prepared them for that silence. And silence has a strange effect. It doesn't just remove noise, it amplifies unanswered questions. Who am I now? Do I still have something to offer? Would anyone choose me if they didn't need me? Those questions rarely stay on the surface. They quietly follow you into every new relationship, sometimes without you realizing it. So when a younger woman enters your life, she may seem like the answer, not because she's younger, but because she temporarily quiets those questions. The problem is, questions that are only silenced eventually come back, usually louder than before. That's why emotional independence matters so much, not because you should become distant, because real closeness is only possible when two people choose each other, not when one person is desperately trying to fill an emotional void. I've met men who were absolutely convinced they had found the one. Months later, they admitted something difficult. It wasn't really her I was chasing. It was the feeling I had when I was with her. There's a profound difference. People often mistake emotional relief for lasting compatibility. Relief says, "You help me escape my loneliness." Compatibility says, "We make each other's lives richer without asking the other person to carry our emotional survival." One feeling fades, the other grows. Now let me speak about something that doesn't get enough attention: admiration. It's beautiful when someone admires you. It's comforting, especially after years of feeling overlooked. But admiration isn't the same as intimacy. Someone can admire your wisdom and still not truly know you. Someone can admire your success and never understand your heart. Real intimacy begins the moment you stop trying to earn love through performance. That's difficult for many men because from childhood, they've often been rewarded for what they accomplish. Be strong, be useful, solve the problem, protect everyone else. Those lessons create capable men, but sometimes they also create men who secretly believe they must keep proving their value to deserve affection. Imagine carrying that belief for 40 years. Imagine how exhausting that becomes. Eventually, even kindness starts to feel like another job. But love was never meant to be another performance review. You don't have to win every conversation. You don't have to appear fearless. You don't have to become a younger version of yourself. The man sitting here today is enough to begin an honest relationship. If he's willing to stop hiding behind the roles he spent a lifetime playing. I've noticed something beautiful about emotionally secure people. They don't rush connection. They allow it to unfold. They don't chase every spark as though it's their last chance. They remain curious, present, patient. Ironically, that calm often creates more attraction than urgency ever could. Because confidence has a quiet rhythm. It doesn't beg, it doesn't cling, it doesn't panic every time uncertainty appears. It simply stays grounded. And grounding is deeply reassuring, especially in a world where so many people are pretending to be someone they think they'll be loved for. Maybe that's one of the greatest gifts that can come with growing older. Not certainty, not perfection, but permission. Permission to stop performing. Permission to stop apologizing for your life. Permission to believe that being deeply known is far more meaningful than simply being admired. Because admiration may catch someone's attention, but authenticity is what gives them a reason to stay. There comes a moment in almost every meaningful relationship when the excitement begins to settle. The late-night conversations are still there, the laughter still feels genuine, the attraction hasn't disappeared. But something quieter starts to replace the rush. Reality. And this is where many age gap relationships are truly tested, not by the difference in years, but by the difference in expectations. I've seen men become frightened when that honeymoon feeling naturally changes. They assume the relationship is fading. They think, maybe she's losing interest. So they try harder, they buy more gifts, they send more messages, they become more available than they were in the beginning. Ironically, that urgency often creates the very distance they fear. Why? Because love doesn't thrive under pressure. It grows in space where two people can breathe. A younger woman doesn't need you to entertain her every minute. She doesn't need every date to be unforgettable. She doesn't need constant proof that you're trying. What she notices far more is consistency. Did your kindness disappear after the first few months? Do your words still match your actions? Can she trust that the man she met is the same man she's getting to know today? Consistency is deeply calming, and calm is often underestimated. We live in a culture that celebrates excitement, big surprises, grand gestures, dramatic declarations. Yet most lasting relationships are built through ordinary moments. A conversation over coffee, a walk where neither person feels the need to fill every silence, a hand resting gently on another without any performance attached to it. Those moments don't usually become viral stories, but they become memories. And memories are what relationships quietly collect over time. Now let me tell you about another mistake I've seen. Some older men become afraid of becoming a burden, so instead of sharing their concerns, they hide them. If they're worried about health, they stay silent. If they're uncertain about the future, they smile and change the subject. If they're feeling emotionally overwhelmed, they convince themselves they'll deal with it alone. At first, this can look like strength, but over time, emotional distance begins to grow. Not because anyone intended it, because honesty was replaced by protection. Healthy relationships don't ask you to pretend life is simple. They ask you to face life's complexity together. That doesn't mean every conversation has to be heavy. Far from it. Laughter matters, playfulness matters, curiosity matters. But so does the ability to say, I've been thinking about something and I'd like to share it with you. Those simple words create bridges. Silence often builds walls. There's another truth I want you to hear. A younger woman is not looking for you to have endless energy. She's looking to see whether your energy is genuine. There's a difference. You don't have to keep up with every trend. You don't have to force yourself into hobbies you secretly dislike. You don't have to prove that you're still young. The most attractive people I've ever met weren't trying to convince anyone of anything. They were simply interested in life. They kept learning. They stayed curious. They asked thoughtful questions. They welcomed new experiences without pretending to be someone else. Curiosity has no age limit. Neither does kindness. Neither does humor. Those qualities age remarkably well. In fact, they often become richer, because they've been shaped by experience instead of performance. And perhaps that's the greatest advantage maturity can offer. Not superiority, perspective. You stop believing every disagreement means disaster. You stop expecting perfection from yourself or from someone else. You begin understanding that love isn't sustained by never making mistakes. It's sustained by how two people respond after those mistakes happen. Can you apologize without losing your dignity? Can you forgive without keeping score? Can you remain respectful when emotions run high? Those moments reveal far more about the future of a relationship than the excitement of the first date ever will. As the years pass, appearance changes, schedules change, health may change, even dreams evolve, but emotional character, that becomes more visible with time. Eventually, every relationship reaches a place where charm alone isn't enough. What remains is patience, integrity, reliability, gentleness. The quiet confidence of someone who has stopped trying to impress and started trying to understand. And maybe that's the real surprise waiting after 60. Not that love becomes impossible, but that the kind of love worth keeping asks less about how old you are and much more about who you choose to become every single day. I want to leave you with one final thought, not about younger women, not even about dating, about you. Because after everything we've talked about, I don't think the biggest question is whether a younger woman could genuinely love a man over 60. The bigger question is whether you've allowed yourself to believe you're still worthy of being loved without having to earn it every single day. Sit with that for a moment. How many years have you spent proving yourself? Proving that you're dependable, proving that you're strong, proving that you can carry responsibilities without complaining, proving that you're successful enough, generous enough, calm enough, capable enough. Somewhere along the way, proving yourself may have become such a habit that you forgot something simple. Love isn't a prize handed to the person with the perfect resume. It's something that grows between two imperfect people who keep choosing honesty over performance. That's why the healthiest relationships I've ever seen don't begin with someone trying to rescue another person. They begin with two people who have made peace with themselves. Not because they've figured life out, because they've stopped pretending they have. If a younger woman comes into your life, don't ask her to erase your loneliness. Invite her to share your life. There's a profound difference. Loneliness says, "Please complete me." Wholeness says, "Walk beside me." One creates pressure, the other creates partnership. And partnerships last longer than performances ever do. Now let's be realistic. Not every younger woman you meet will be interested in you. That's true. But it's equally true that not every woman your own age will be interested either. That's not a tragedy. That's simply how human connection works. Attraction isn't a guarantee, it's a possibility. And possibilities require courage. Not reckless courage, quiet courage. The courage to introduce yourself without already deciding the outcome. The courage to enjoy a conversation without turning it into a test of your worth. The courage to hear no without allowing it to become the story of your identity. Because rejection answers only one question. It does not define your value. One person's choice cannot summarize an entire life. Here's something I hope you never forget. The years you've lived have given you things that youth cannot buy. Perspective, resilience, patience, the ability to recognize what truly matters and what simply creates noise. Those aren't consolation prizes, they're real strengths. The mistake is believing they only matter if someone else notices them. They matter because they've shaped the person you are. And the right relationship, whether it's with someone younger, someone your own age, or someone you haven't even met yet, will be built on that person, not on an illusion. So don't shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. Don't exaggerate who you are to seem more impressive. Don't apologize for your grey hair, your laugh lines, or the years that taught you painful lessons. Those years didn't just take something from you. If you've paid attention, they also gave you wisdom. They gave you empathy. They gave you the ability to listen before reacting. They gave you the chance to become the kind of man who brings steadiness instead of chaos. And in a world that often feels rushed, distracted, and uncertain, steadiness is rare, very rare. Maybe the greatest gift of growing older is discovering that real confidence becomes quieter. It doesn't need to announce itself, it doesn't compete, it doesn't chase validation, it simply shows up as itself. And people feel that, whether they're 25, 45, or 75. So if someone younger enters your life, don't begin with fear. Don't begin with assumptions. Don't begin by trying to predict the ending before the story has even started. Begin with curiosity, with respect, with honesty. Let her discover who you are instead of trying to convince her. And allow yourself to discover who she is too, beyond the labels, beyond the age difference, beyond the opinions of people who will never live your life. Because in the end, love has never been about finding someone who makes time stand still. It's about finding someone with whom time feels meaningful. If that happens after 60, then your story isn't arriving late. It's simply unfolding in its own time. And sometimes, the chapters we almost gave up on become the ones we remember for the rest of our lives.